Hey, what's up, guys? This is David Chase Taylor of 911truther.org. Today is March 11th of 2026. So, based on breaking news and events, it appears the CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland has greenlit a full-scale attack, bombing, and/or invasion by China, Iran, North Korea, and/or Russia on the date of Friday, March 13th of 2026, specifically to trigger all-out World War III. Um, exactly what type of attack is planned is obviously not known, but what we do know is we know that it's going to be CBRN in nature. That's chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear in nature. It's going to be used to spawn a second global biological pandemic, and it's going to result in nuclear World War III, likely featuring the mutually assured destruction scenario, otherwise known as MAD, M-A-D. So before I get into the potential scenarios, which are blinking red, I just want to highlight two quick pieces of numerology. Quickly, the date of March 13th marks exactly 71 days since Guy Parmelon became president of Switzerland back on January 1st of 2026. Because the CIA is located in Geneva, Switzerland, the CIA cues off this numerology. And the number 71 or 17 equates to letter Q, as in coup d'etat, because this is a coup d'etat being organized by Switzerland, the first Jewish state in Geneva, Switzerland, and they are going to overthrow the world as we know it in a desperate attempt to establish a new world order. Also, the date of March 13th marks exactly 13 days since the CIA staged the ongoing so-called Iran War, featuring the United States and Israel against the Islamic Republic of Iran. In the event of a second war breaking out on the date of March 13th of 2026, it would mark two such events in 14 days. 214, so you have the number 24, which equates to the letter X, and then you have the 214, you have the 1 in the middle, and then you have what forms the hexagram, otherwise known as the Star of David. So this is what's called geometric numerology, and that is because you have Switzerland is the first Jewish state, and they are staging a world war, and so they're going to have the Star of David, which is on the flag of Israel, because Israel is going to be intimately involved, as I'm going to lay out in a minute. They're going to have the third state of the third Jewish state, known as the State of Israel, organize this mass attack that's going to start World War III. So exactly how this is going to play out on the date of Friday the 13th, which I should mention is also a very ominous date. It's associated with broken mirrors, black cats, and of course ladders. What those connotations mean is not really important, but what's important here is that this date is associated with spookiness, with creepiness, with basically negative energy. And so the CIA plans to, because I mean, if World War III in fact commences on that day, it would of course reinforce this long-held stereotype. That being said, I believe that the CIA is going to stage an all-out attack using their shadow army and their shadow fleet. Firstly, their shadow army consists of roughly 150,000 Ukrainian armed forces. As I've been detailing for weeks now, the CIA has grossly overinflated the numbers of dead in the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war. According to Wikipedia, it's roughly 140,000. As I've said numerous times, we have more video footage of the Vietnam War, of people getting killed in the Vietnam War, than we do of the Russo-Ukrainian War, despite the fact that every drone being used in that war and every person in that war having a cell phone with a camera on it, which is just unbelievable. So I believe that these numbers are grossly inflated because they have this shadow army of roughly 150,000 Ukrainian troops that are going to be dressed up in Belarusian or Russian uniforms and be used to stage a false flag attack somewhere in Europe or around the world. In this particular case, the date of March 13th marks exactly 178 days since the CIA staged Zapad 2025 in Belarus, which consisted of 150,000 Russian troops exercising a CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear military exercise in Belarus back on September 12th through 16th of 2025. Obviously, this number has the number 17, which again equates to letter Q as in coup d'etat, and has the number 18 or 81, which is the Swiss National Day of August 1st, because this is Switzerland using Ukrainian troops framed as Russian troops to basically overthrow the world order in Europe on this particular date. Also, the date of March 13th marks exactly 1,640 days since the CIA staged Zapad 2021 in Belarus with the 150,000 Russian troops back on September 10th through 15th of 2021. So we noticed that they're staging these Russian drills of 150,000 troops, and then we have 140,000 alleged fatalities. And so this number is coincidentally almost exactly the same. And so this is because these troops that are training in Russia, Russian troops training in Belarus, those are the troops that they're going to say attacked Europe, when in fact it's going to be the Ukrainian troops, the ones that are allegedly dead, that are going to commit this attack in Belarusian or Russian uniforms. The number 1640, of course, has the number 16, which is indicative of the CI star found in the CI logo. And then, of course, has the number 14 and or 41, which is found in the motto of Switzerland, all for one, one for all. And then lastly, the date of March 13th marks exactly 94 days since the CIA assassinated Royal Air Force Lance Corporal George Hooley in a paratrooper airborne assault accident while training Ukrainian troops in Ukraine back on December 9th of 2025. So what I discovered, and the reason I identified this shadow army, is because you have the Royal Air Force from the UK are training these 150,000 or so Ukrainian troops that are going to be wearing Belarusian or Russian uniforms, and they're going to airdrop them into Europe behind the NATO lines. So this is how they're going to start World War III. And of course, the number 94 or 49 equates to DI as in die, and then of course the number 9 doubles as the letter I, which is also 1, which is also 14, which is found in the motto of Switzerland, all for one, one for all. Okay, so the Shadow Army of Russia is going to launch an attack, possibly targeting Alaska in the United States, possibly targeting Scandinavia, Finland, or Denmark, or they're going to go into Ukraine, Poland, or Germany most likely, or they will attack capitals in Europe, which I'm going to get into in a minute. So that's how I believe the Russian angle of the attack will take place. Now the Chinese and the Iranian and the North Korean attack is likely going to be executed by the Shadow Navy. So we have a Shadow Army of 150,000 Ukrainian troops, and then we have a Shadow Navy that consists of decommissioned ships and submarines from the U.S. Navy, the Royal Navy, and other navies around the world that have collected, Israel has collected since their inception on May 14th of 1948. And then they have advanced prototypes from various military industrial complex organizations such as Boeing, Raytheon, McDonnell Douglas, and so forth. And these prototypes are invisible to the current radar systems. So this allows this Israeli fleet to operate with impunity around the world. Not only that, but the CIA in Switzerland is in control of the entire NATO satellite grid. So they have basically impunity to act as a rogue navy without being detected on the radars of China, the United States, and other countries. So I believe that this impending attack is going to be launched from the sea targeting multiple coastal cities. So, for example, if the CIA stages a Chinese attack on California, they'll likely use 9/11 style kamikaze suicide drone bombing attacks, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drone strikes, and hypersonic missile strikes, and or torpedo strikes targeting ports and major metropolitan cities such as San Francisco, San Jose, Los Angeles, San Diego, etc. And they'll be launched from 10 to 15 miles out off the coast, so nobody will be able to tell actually where they came from. So they'll say that it was China that attacked California, but in reality it was a bunch of Dolphin-class submarines of the Israeli Navy that launched the attack. The same goes for North Korea. So Israeli submarines or carriers could execute an attack on South Korea, and then they claimed that it was North Korean subs. And the same goes for Israel. So they would likely launch an Iranian attack targeting United States military bases in the Mediterranean Sea, and they would come from 10 to 15 miles off the coast. So coincidentally, because the CIA has been planning this narrative for years now, they have had the navies of China, Iran, and Russia execute multiple naval drills together. This is designed to associate the three navies together prior to the attack, and it's also to film them and to photograph them executing military maneuvers together prior to being framed for committing this attack that is going to be executed by the shadow navy of the Israeli defense forces. So coincidentally, the date of March 13th marks exactly 56 days since the CIA staged Operation Will for Peace, which was a Chinese, Iranian, and Russian naval drill off the coast of South Africa back on January 9th through the 16th of 2026. The date of March 13th also marks 1,511 days since the CIA staged Chiru 2022 in the Indian Ocean with the Chinese, Iranian, and Russian Navy back on January 22nd of 2022. And the first ever drill between the Chinese, Iranian, and Russian Navy was held in the Indian Ocean back on December 31st of 2019. And so the date of March 13th marks exactly 2,264 days since that particular military exercise, the first ever coming together of these three navies to execute a military exercise in the Indian Ocean. And this was obviously the number 24 equates to the letter X, and then of course the number 26 equates to the letter Z, which is an acronym for Zionism, which is in fact the political motivation behind this impending attack. Lastly, in order to take the leaders of China, Iran, and Russia together and to photograph them together, the CIA staged the meeting of Xi Jinping, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Beijing, China, back on June 14th of 2019. And the date of March 13th marks exactly 2,464 days. And again, we have the number 24, which equates to the letter X, which is the international symbol of death. And then, of course, you have the number 26, which equates to the letter Z, which is an acronym for Zionism. And so we see that these, the last or the first ever joint Chinese, Iranian, and Russian naval drill and the original meeting of the leaders of these countries share the same numerology, and that's called reflective numerology, and that is because this is a date that they plan to execute this particular military option. So exactly how this is going to play out, like I said, is not known, but in respect to Russia and the shadow army of Ukraine, a Moscow decapitation strike is likely expected. So they would take these paratroopers from Ukraine and then drop them into Russia, basically to invade and to blow up the Kremlin and to kill Vladimir Putin. This would obviously trigger the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and it would likely result in Russia sending a swath of missiles into Europe and the United States. There's also the high likelihood that these paratroopers, as previously mentioned, would be used to be airborne, launch an airborne assault on the capitals of Europe as pretext for World War III. And then, of course, like I previously mentioned, dropping these Ukrainian troops behind enemy lines is obviously expected. In respect to China, an attack targeting Taiwan, Thailand, New Zealand, Australia, Japan is expected. Also targeting United States Armed Forces military bases across the Pacific Theater is expected, and possibly even ICBM strikes. So, as I previously mentioned in this video, Switzerland is the first Jewish state, formed August 1st, 1309 circa, and then we have the Jewish Autonomous Oblast, which is the second Jewish state, was formed on May 7th of 1934. And then we have the third Jewish state, the state of Israel, was formed in the Middle East on May 14th of 1948. And so from Israel and from the Jewish Autonomous Oblast, they both have ICBM launchers. And so I expect that missiles from both locations will be fired, from Israel into Europe, and likely from the Jewish Autonomous Oblast into Alaska and the continental United States and or Canada. In respect to Iran, the CIA will likely stage some sort of an attack or incursion targeting Iraq and or Turkey, because the United States has a large military contingent in Baghdad, otherwise known as the Green Zone, and then Turkey, of course, borders Iran, and it is a NATO nation. So they plan to invoke the NATO Article 5, which is if a NATO nation is attacked, then all NATO nations will respond. Obviously, the goal here is to trigger World War III, so a false flag attack targeting Iraq and or Turkey is expected. Also, these Dolphin-class submarines of the Israeli Navy will likely launch a missile barrage or drone strike barrage targeting United States Armed Forces bases in the Middle East that were already previously attacked by Iran in the ongoing Iran war. And as mentioned, ICBM strikes allegedly sent by Iran targeting the United States or Israel is also expected. Lastly, in respect to North Korea, some sort of chemical-related attack targeting the demilitarized zone, the DMZ. There is a large contingency of U.S. troops in that particular area, and of course, with the goal being to spawn a second global biological pandemic and to trigger World War III, the United States troops will be targeted. There's also the possibility that the CIA will stage some sort of an incursion into South Korea, and this may be an aerial bombardment by the Israeli Navy masquerading as an attack by North Korea. And because the aforementioned Jewish Autonomous Oblast is only 700 miles north of North Korea in eastern Russia, ICBM strikes allegedly originating from North Korea targeting South Korea, Japan, the Philippines, US or Canada is also expected. So just to recap, March 13th, otherwise known as Friday the 13th, the CIA is going to stage one or more military offenses around the world via their Shadow Army and Shadow Navy, backed up by the three Jewish states. One is Switzerland that is organizing everything, and then we have ICBM launchers and militaries from both respective places, namely Ukraine and Israel, that are going to be launching a military offensive. Also, it's imperative to note that Ukraine is led by a Jewish Zionist named Vladimir Zelensky, and then of course we have the Jewish Zionist known as Benjamin Netanyahu, and these are two key players that Switzerland is helping to organize this. So this is going to be a mass attack. Like I said, it's designed to spawn a second global biological pandemic and trigger World War III, and therefore it will be chemical, biological, radiological, and or nuclear nature, and it's going to fall at the footsteps of Switzerland and her CIA that is going to organize and give the green light to execute this attack. So obviously, if that happens, I would kindly ask that you download this video and share it with local, state, and federal law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials, as well as with local, national, and international media outlets. Lastly, I just want to say for the record that if the CIA forgoes ordering a mass attack, like a foreign nation attack on another nation, they will likely resort to their bread and butter, otherwise known as Islamic terrorism. And so they will have one or more of the aforementioned states, China, Iran, North Korea, and we can throw in Pakistan and or Russia, sponsor some sort of Islamic terror group. So we're talking Al-Qaeda, we're talking Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS, the Muslim Brotherhood, Taliban, etc., 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 stage some sort of heinous act of terror on March 13th of 2026, Black Friday. Friday the 13th. So this attack, as we know, is going to be, again, CBRN in nature, with the same goal of spawning a second global biological pandemic or triggering World War III, because the numerology for March 13th is obviously very much the same. So obviously, I'm praying for a peaceful Friday the 13th. Peace.